Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you.
We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Céline Remy, and we are here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and beyond.
All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 167, and it's titled The Real Reason Your Relationships Fail. So we've covered actually quite a few reasons why relationships fail, but that's because there are a lot of reasons. Some of them are pretty obvious. Some of them actually aren't that obvious. And today's reason is actually not that obvious. At least it isn't to most people. Now, something you and I actually talk about quite a lot. We've talked about this topic just between ourselves a lot. We've never really done a whole show on it. But when we were speaking with our guest, who we will introduce in just a moment, this topic came up again. And we were like, oh yeah, this is something that we have personally talked about and seen a lot. And I think it's time to address it on a show. So we are going to be doing that today. And hopefully I have left you in suspense, wondering what that thing is by not telling you just yet.
And the good thing too is that this thing goes straight to the cause. So you're not dealing with symptoms and putting little bandages trying to make it work. And we'll talk more about that. You're going to go to the cause, the root, and you can eradicate it. All right. Before we introduce our guest today, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors, Power and Mastery. So if you want to join the secret club of men who are great in bed, then check out Power and Mastery at powerandmastery.com. It is the most complete sexual mastery training for men. Whether you want to have harder erections, last longer, or increase your sexual skills, there is something for you at powerandmastery.com. So, we have today Abby Medcalf. She is a relationship maven, a psychologist, author, podcast host, Tedx speaker who has helped thousands of people think differently so they can create connection, ease, and joy in their relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. And with her unique background in both business and counseling, she brings a fresh, effective perspective to life struggles using humor and her direct, no-nonsense style. She's the author of the #1 Amazon bestselling book, Be Happily Married, Even If Your Partner Won't Do a Thing. And we'll come back to that because I'm sure many women want to hear about that. And she is also the host of the top-rated podcast, Relationship Made Easy. So welcome, Abby, to the Love Lab Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be great.
Well, that is a pretty impressive bio.
And we cut some of her achievements off, but you can read that on the website.
The show's only 40 minutes.
I feel like my mother wrote that, it's like goes on and on. Yeah, it's a bit much.
No, it's great. It's great. I was not making fun of that. I was actually impressed by it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty impressive. So those of you who are listening, be prepared for some amazing insights. So we're just going to jump right in. And the first question, well, we'll see how you answer it, but I have some ideas myself on how you might answer it, which is when somebody comes to you, so a couple comes to you and they're seeking advice, there's something not working in their relationship. What do they usually think the problem is?
I would say almost 100% of the time, people come to me and they say the problem is communication. Of course, we don't communicate. We need to improve our communication skills. And it happens pretty much every time. And then I have to tell them they're wrong. And they're not wrong. None of us are wrong. It's true that our communication is failing, but it's failing because that's actually a symptom of the problem. Like we were talking about before, there's actually a deeper problem, which is, I can say it, I think, which is really, it's competition in the relationship. We compete for time, resources, money, all the time in our relationships. And we're really raised this way. It's a very kind of American way, especially, although I have clients all over the world and it's pretty common everywhere. But we compete with our partners, not realizing that we're doing it.
Okay. So just to sort of summarize what you said, most people come in and they say, it's our communication. And I have to say, honestly, you must have some pretty decent level clients because, and I say that just because a lot of people we work with think their communication is actually okay. Oh. They think that they're communicating well. And we sit there and we're like, You call that communication, right? Like we gotta. Oh, no. Let's take a few steps back here. We've got to address this communication piece. So they come in thinking that that's the problem, and it likely is a problem. But I think, as you correctly pointed out, it's also a symptom of a larger problem, which you have already told our audience is competition. So that, of course, begs question number 3.
What does it mean to be competing then in a relationship? Because I'm sure when people hear the term, they're like, I don't compete, but I'm sure that, and I can see it like in so many ways that we've been taught to behave like this. So in your opinion, Abby, like, what does it mean really to be competing in a relationship?
Yeah, it shows up in just about everything generally. So the obvious one I always use is it's people saying it's your turn to put away the dishes. It's your turn to do this thing. We're taking turns. Really? Is that where we are? We're taking turns in our relationship. So already you're keeping score. You're immediately keeping score. You're saying, oh, I did it the other day, so now it's your turn. And it better be fair, and it better be exact, and it better be equitable. And that's not true in any relationship, especially when you're comparing time, because we all have different capacities. We all have different things we do. We all have different things we bring to the table that are very valuable. And I will say that, for example, men get beat up on this one a lot because we know, the Pew Research Center, all the research that women physically do more work when we get married. We live less long. We don't live as long as men. Men live longer when they get married. Men get really great stuff when they get married, right? So that's great. But there's this idea somehow that men aren't bringing to the table what women bring. And well, they're not, because they're bringing something different. They're bringing something just as valuable. But it really, when you start breaking down time and how many hours women spend, and it's true, right? And all the research will show you, we spend more hours with childcare. We spend more hours cleaning the house. We spend more hours doing all the things. But that's why you can't compare in that way. And that's why keeping score is so bad. So we start to, if I'm doing this many hours of, I do all the cooking in my house and shopping and things, that takes more time, than my, Gary mowing the lawn, right? And stuff like it just does. But he does so many other things that are incredibly valuable to me. So when we start, that's why this competition thing is so bad and so undermining. And I'll tell you, I'll just do this really quickly. My tires in my car were low. And he kept telling me, you need air in your tires, right? They're getting low. Coming from New York City, I didn't have a car. Like I don't know, cars aren't my thing. I thought I had to go to the mechanic and leave it all day. I didn't know it was an easy fix. I had no idea. So I kept ignoring it. To make a long story short, he went and did it for me. And he came home and I said, I acted like he split the atom. I said, oh, thank you. I'm so appreciative that you put this air in my tires. And he's laughing, saying it took me about 2 minutes. Right. So, but it was and I said to him, he said, well, I was thinking of how competent you are and how together you are, and you weren't doing it. And so I thought, she doesn't get how easy it is. I'll just go take care of it. So even though that took him 5 minutes, how amazingly valuable is that in the relationship? So when you're not keeping score and you're not adding up, you start to really come together and see each other's really the wonderful things that we each bring to a relationship, right? Which are very different.
Yeah. And I like the way you put it, because when you take it away from using the word competition and then use the words keeping score, it's suddenly like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I get what she's talking about, right? Because, when I started this show by saying that we talk about the fact that we witness a lot of people competing in relationships. Like it's a much more modern phenomenon.
Yep.
We can talk about that later, but we witness it a lot. And so we talk about it a lot, but when we talk about it to other people, they don't really get it. Like, I don't compete, they just don't understand what that means. So I think putting it in terms of keeping score, keeping track of how many times did you do this and how long did it take you to do that? Suddenly people, I think, can get a real feel for what it means to be competing. And I just want to add one sort of example that maybe makes it, I guess it makes it easier to understand, which is this. Let's say you have a company And you've got all these people in the company who have specific roles. This particular person is an engineer. This person is the bookkeeper, accountant, and this person is, whatever. Would it make sense for you in a company to say, well, we need everything to be so equitable that today it's the accountant's turn to do the engineering? Right? Would that make any sense whatsoever? Of course not, because the accountant knows nothing about engineering and they're absolutely going to screw it up. And so I say all the time, and Céline and I talk about this, it's like, we're a team and we utilize our talents in the best way possible. So, I'm better at certain things and she's better at certain things. And so I handle the things where my skill set fits the best, and she handles the things where her skill set fits the best. And really, that just works so much better. We'll talk about solutions later on, but I just think that's a really good way of putting it. It's like, if people realize that, hey, wait a minute, not everybody's great at every single job, and asking people to do a bunch of things that aren't really, one, their skill set, or two, things that they even want to be doing. Like the perfect example in our house is she doesn't like to take the trash out, and she's perfectly capable of, taking care of the things in the outside, the trash and when the animals tear things up and the gophers, and sure, she can do all that, but she doesn't really want to. I, on the other hand, would prefer to do that over vacuuming the house, So, hey, sure, let me go outside. I'll mess with the spiders and the dead animals and the dirty trash and all. I'm fine with that, as long as I don't have to get out the vacuum cleaner.
And I would even say for that, if both of you hated vacuuming, that you use a resource outside the couple. So what happens a lot in this competition thing and this keeping score thing is that whenever something comes into the house that has to get done, and this is especially bad when you have kids, but it's true all the time. So the taxes have to get done. It's time, right? And so we immediately look to the other person, to our partner. Okay, who's going to do it? We have the two of us. Who's going to do it? And there's this you got to understand that you're a shared resource. So if I drain my partner, I'm also draining myself every single time. And so it's very important to really start thinking about bringing in resources from outside the couple. So, and not always looking to your partner to solve something or to do something, or taking those things off your plate if you can, if it's something that doesn't have to happen. We used to have the kids in way too many activities. And at some point you go, this isn't helpful to our family. This isn't making us thrive and grow. The kids don't have to be in 3 sports and a language and take an instrument and whatever, you can let things go. But it's, again, that keeping score thing comes up in also ways of, not being happy when our partners have success, because we can sometimes see it. Oh, they'll be away from the house more now. They won't be here. Maybe we start getting jealous of coworkers or things like that. Maybe you are, or one of my other favorites is sometimes, our partners will come to us and say, hey, I'm feeling neglected, maybe something like that. And the answer to that is, oh my gosh, tell me more. That's the only answer to that. Tell me more. But the answer is usually neglected. I did this, and this, and this. And we list off all the things of why they shouldn't feel that way, because we're keeping score. This is that competition. This is what that looks like. And when I'm doing that, I don't want you to win, because I see it as a loss for me. If you spend money on something, it means it's less for me. If you get a, promotion and now you're traveling a lot, great. I'm stuck at home taking care of the kids. There's this constant, and that's a problem in a relationship. We want to really be there. We want our partners to win. We want them to have so much bounty, because we're a shared resource. So it means that I have that too. I get that too. It's both of us. But again, and this is what really undermines this feeling of cooperation and partnership, because I'm so busy watching what you're doing and comparing it to what I'm doing. And I'm adding up the hours or the money you spent or the whatever it is, and I'm comparing it. And right there, I am in just deficit, right? And I will tell you that relates to one other piece, which is that, and this is the work of Timothy Wilson, our conscious brains process information at a rate of 50 bits per second, while our unconscious minds or our subconscious processes information at a rate of 11 million bits per second. So our partners don't hear what we say, they hear what we mean. So if I say, oh, that's great, I'm really happy about your promotion, but inside I am like thinking of the 50 things I'm going to lose because of it and how annoying that is. And great, he's going to meet someone now when he's off, or she's going to, think she's too good for me now. If that's what I'm thinking, that's what comes across. And we've all been there where someone was saying all the right things, but we didn't believe them. And again, and that is undercutting your relationship also. That is starting to wear at the thread that holds us together over and over and over, because we stop trusting. We're hearing this thing, but we don't believe it. And that's what's getting under there all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So, and you've answered it already, but I just want to kind of point it out a little bit more to the audience. Our next question was, why is the competition bad? And you just gave us like 10 reasons why this competing is really, really bad for your relationship. So I want people to really understand how negative some of those effects can be. And man, you really hit on one with the money, which is if you buy something, that's less money for me. That is so huge in relationships, and people don't even realize that that's underneath. They're just like, I can't believe you spent all that money, right? Or they're like, whatever. If they really thought about it, they'd realize that what it is, yeah, because I wanted something myself and now we don't have the money for it, right? Right. That's underlying it.
Or what's worse? Or I might want something. It's not like I want it. What if later
I need to have that pile there just in case?
Just in case I want this. And again, here my partner is so happy, so excited. My Gary does these Spartan races. You know these things? The obstacle course, right? We're old, but he's very active. Anyway, and he does these races, and we're flying all over. We're in East, wherever, buttfuck, Montana, places like I don't want to be. I'm a city girl, and we're doing our thing. But I'm a Gary fan. I'm not a fan of this thing. And I have this wonderful picture of him. They do a fire jump at the end. They jump over fire at the end of this thing. He is in such joy. My man is in such joy. So to watch him in that and to be in that, it's amazing. So whatever money we spend, whatever time I give up, quote unquote, to go do these things, however that all works, I'm getting the super happy, fulfilled, excited guy, not to mention fit at our age. That's just great. But, it's still sexy and looks great, but you're getting all, and again, we can miss that. Cause I also could be on the thing of, oh my God, we spent all this money on these races and, why are we doing it at this age? And I don't want to go to these places. And, he's probably going to meet women when he's there who are really into it too. And I'm not into it. And then what, right? It would be so easy to just go the other way with it. And that's the competition. And you have to decide again, that you're this shared resource and that one of anybody's happiness is really giving you happiness too.
So I also think that it's great to bring it. I think the keeping score can show up in so many different areas of a relationship. So I would see it happening in the bedroom where, well, I'm the one who initiated or last time, or it's always me doing this. And we always tell people, would you rather be the one who initiates and end up having sex, or be grumpy and saying like, I'm not going to do it because it's always me, and get nothing? Yep. Right. Yep. So I see it keeping score with intimacy, with how much kissing, lovemaking or touch is happening, who does what when. I see keeping score with the money part, like how many people contribute. And I think it's also a tricky one because with women working now, and men working, and the cost of life becoming higher, we each need to bring in more into a household to have the lifestyle we want. So we each contributing a lot, but sometimes if one makes X and the other one makes less, it's not about we both put in this much amount. It's like maybe we each put in X percentage or something. Like there are ways around that, right? Yep. I see things about keeping score about the household. This is really big. And that's one of the things that I want to come back to with, which is the title of your book, with like, how can you still be happy, well, married or not in a relationship if your partner won't do anything? Because right now I'm listing all these different areas within a relationship that people are keeping scores that are undermining that intimacy for the long run. Maybe there's one more about keeping score about how many friends and how many activities you go outside, right? And or fun you have.
Who plans them?
Oh,
I get that a
yes.
lot. Oh, I always have to plan the vacations. I always have to, whenever we're going out. And to me, it comes back to what you were saying earlier. What are you good at? And I definitely hear the sex one a lot. That what I just got, people writing questions for me I do like an Ask Dr. Abby kind of thing, and I get that a lot. What do I do if I'm always the one initiating? The thing here is that we then decide what it means. Mm-hmm. It means he doesn't desire me. If I'm always initiating, it means he doesn't desire me. And I always like to say to them, does it act like he's not excited once you start having sex? Like, does he seem like he's not interested? And of course, he's very interested. It's what are you bringing to the relationship? And sometimes they'll say, well, but in the beginning, he was always, wanting to get on top of me. And now I always have to initiate. And again, it's that keeping score. You're so right on. And I think, if that's what you bring to the relationship, how wonderful. How can you get even more creative around it? How can you have even more fun with it? What else can you do? And one of my favorite questions to tell people to ask when that stuff comes up is to ask their partner, what would you like to see more of in our sex life? It's a perfect way because, well, you're not out and you're not doing this. And it gets us nowhere. And I say a lot, we have to connect to correct. And so there has to be that connection first before we start talking about something that we don't like or that isn't working for us. But there's a lot of ways where we don't even have to talk about what's not working. We can talk about what's working and how to get more of it. So what would you like to see more of in our sex life is such a great open question that what do I want to see more of? And in that, if they ask you, you can say, I would, love it if you, I don't know, threw me on the kitchen table sometimes or whatever it is that you'd like to see more of. And don't keep score with that. If that doesn't happen later, so don't be waiting, ticking off. Oh, we only had sex on the kitchen table twice. It's not that at all. It's about coming back to it over and over with this loving, open heart about that we are in this together. And that is how you are happily in a relationship without your partner doing anything. It's because you're doing those things. And when you align that 50 bits and that 11 million bits, when I am just in it, it's contagious. It's like being at a concert and everyone is on their feet. Do you really think you're going to be sitting in your seat? You're not, you're swept up. And that's exactly what happens in a relationship. If you can be the dominant vibration, I hear all the time, oh, I was in a great mood. And then my partner came home in a bad mood. And then I was upset. Why? Why didn't it go the other way? Why is that the dominant thing that quote unquote wins? What are you talking about? So you be the dominant vibration. You be in that incredible, happy, abundant, sexy, whatever place you want to be in. Just be in that. It is like moths to a flame. Everyone is looking to connect. To people, I say a lot, our partners are never looking for a way out. They're looking for a way in. They're always looking for that way in, even if they're threatening a way out. Mm-hmm. And so how do you let them in? You have to be vulnerable and open and showing. But again, we keep score. Well, what if I do that and they don't? What if I'm really loving and they're not?
Well, it's kind of the giving. We always talk about that, giving without an agenda, whether you're in the bedroom or not. It's like if you give with the intention of getting something in return, you are not truly giving. You are trying to convince yourself that I'm such a giver. And I'm like, well, really, you're a taker. That's all you're doing. And that requires quite a change to be willing. I read one day that the only love you get to keep is the one you give. Yeah. And when I read that, it made so much sense because in my earlier years, I was kind of more of, if I'm loving this much, and I'm going to mirror how much my partner is like loving me, and it's very common because we're like, well, we want to be in this equal relationship. But the day I decided it doesn't matter whether or not my partner loves me as much as I do, I'm going to just love this person. And then once I did this, I guess I went to that place of surrender and letting go. And then I was finally able to see all the million ways that my partner loves me. And I believed, and I thought, maybe he loves me even more than I do. Incredible. How lucky am I? Like, I was just like, this is amazing. But it really took this awareness of myself and this letting go. And I think whether it is around the love, whether it is around the money, the chores, like being like, so what, and like, we have no more of this agenda behind that it has to go somewhere. That's when that transformation happens.
I agree. I call that whole thing when we're waiting relationship gridlock. I'm waiting for you to say it until I do it. Well, I initiated sex the other day, so now I'm waiting for you. So now we're not having sex. There's all this gridlock. And as in regular gridlock, someone has to move their car first. And I do say to people, the one in the most pain needs to change first. If you're in the most pain, if you're the one coming to me because you're upset, guess what? You're the one who has to change first. And as you do that, we see, right? We start to see the world differently. Our expectations shift, our perceptions shift. That's what's going on there. And then again, that 11 million and 50 start to align, and our partners start to really feel us. They start to really get us, and they start to act in kind. And that's what happens. Unless you are with someone who truly has a very severe mental health disorder, which is maybe less than 3% of the population. I just want to say that. So it's very small. You might be with a true brittle narcissist. It's possible. It's just not probably, it's not as common. We throw that word around a lot. So unless that's true, your partner, again, they're looking for a way in. They will gravitate towards that loving stance. And so you can't be taken advantage of. That's what like if I heard a penny for every time I heard that, I think, really, we're worried that we're loving too much. Was Mother Teresa worried about being taken advantage of? I don't know what to say. Like, being in the act of love is such a beautiful way to be. And we feel so happy and it feels replete. So we're not thinking about other people taking advantage. And if you are thinking of that, you're still keeping score. So I will say that that's one of the little things you can have in your head to let you know that you're still keeping score.
Ooh.
Absolutely. I actually want to dive down that rabbit hole a bit more, but there's so many other things to talk about. You want to do an ad first?
Yes, okay. I wanted to do our ad, then we got back into this juicy conversation. So this is for all of you couples who are stuck in a rut and just going through the daily motions instead of connecting the way you used to. You might be tired of keeping scores, of having stale sex, and all of these things, not feeling spontaneous, like, there's no more ease and connection in your relationship. Then Kevin and I would like to invite you to join our highly sexed Power Couple Platinum program. So if you give us 90 days, we will help you bring the passion back between the sheets and be synced up sexually so that you can thrive with more purpose and passion in life. So go to CelineRemy.com/passion to find out more about this life transforming program. CelineRemy.com/passion.
Okay. So, I said earlier on in the program that this is, in my opinion, more of a modern phenomenon, this idea of competition. And I think a lot of that's coming from society's pressure where everything has to be equal. I don't want to go too far into the feminism part. We did a whole show on that, but I think there's a part of real feminism that gets confused, right? Because it's like, yes, you should have the same rights to voting and you should be able to make the same amount of money and have the same job opportunities. All that, as far as being equal and equitable, is fine. But I think it gets taken a bit too far. And then when it comes into the relationship, all of those, this is, if I did the dishes this number of times, you got to do them, like that sort of equitable, not good. So the reason I'm bringing that up right now is because when you say that's not good, and when you say you shouldn't be doing that, and when you give examples, for instance, like, well, I don't really want to go here, but I'm his wife, so I want to support him. I want to sort of just nip this in the bud before anybody listening starts to get the wrong idea. It sounds like, and honestly, it doesn't to us, but it could potentially sound to other people like you are advocating for traditional gender roles in relationships, which today would be a terrible thing to do. Oh my God, gender roles, this is horrible. But I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit more and maybe explain how, even though it may seem like that's what you're advocating, that's not actually what you're advocating.
Yeah. Because I'm actually going deeper than that. So yeah, sometimes people can get that hit, not so much anymore, but I remember when I was first talking about this, it would happen. There on the top, it's very easy to talk about emotional labor and things like that. And I talk about all that on my podcast. So yes, women, like I said before, we physically do more, we do. And so there's a space of, oh, well, then, yeah, I just want that. No, I don't. So what I do want is for people to really think about. So number one, I would say, look outside your marriage to take care of a lot of these issues. Because as we said before, both people are often working now. That used to not be the right, outside and inside the home, all that. So this idea that we used to have, whole communities raising children, whole communities. We didn't do this on our own, not near a relative. My relatives, I don't have any relatives like living near me to take care of my kids, right? That didn't exist. So, and up until literally like 50 years ago, that was always true. And we're forgetting. So we really can't just do it us. We do need to bring in other resources. I'm saying just don't always look to your partner because you're both exhausted. You're both so tired. And I also want to say that just like in if you look at like a pride of lions, that's what I always use, those male lions have it made, right? They're having sex and fighting off some hyenas occasionally. That's pretty much it. Having their meals brought to them.
It's what we love to do.
Right? Life's pretty good. Yet you cannot have a working pride without them. And what they contribute is no less valuable than what the lionesses contribute, right? Which you couldn't have it without them either, right? So, but this idea that one is more valuable than the other because of time, because of how much time goes into it. And what does happen are things like, as women, I can speak for myself and my clients, I think a lot of people, sometimes we want things a certain way. We like things to be cleaned a certain way or to be put away a certain way and I had a couple, I'll say this the other day, who she got really sick. He finished and he had worked all day and she got really sick at dinner and he said, go to bed. Like, my gosh, right? She comes down in the morning and he had cleaned up after dinner, gotten the kids to bed, he had done all the things. But the garbage hadn't been taken out. The counters weren't completely wiped down, like nice, right? Some of the dishes that I gotten cleaned had some crust in them a little bit. And she was furious. She's like, I had to wake up and do all this work when, he said he would take care of it. He didn't really. He knows how important this is to me, right? He knows this reading minds thing is beautiful. And again, the definition that we give to things, and I said to her, so I made it really simple. I said, if you just looked at the kitchen and you had to give it a grade, an A+ to an F, what grade would you have given this kitchen? When you walked in, what grade would you have given it? And she said, and she kind of sat at me, she goes, I guess about like a B+. I said,
and yet
really?
She's furious.
I know. And she got it as soon as she said it. She got it. And I said, what you're feeling is somehow not taken care of in another way. And you're talking about the kitchen. It's not about the kitchen. It's really about, I'm not with Gary because he mows the lawn really well. That's not why we get with people. We get with them because of how they make us feel. I said, you're not feeling this way. You were feeling vulnerable. You got sick. You were probably feeling guilty because women do. God forbid we get sick and we have to go to bed and not do everything. You feel bad. That's your stuff. So how can you ask for what you need? I need a hug. I need a little extra love. I need you to let me know really is okay that you did all this extra work when I know how tired you are. She was feeling bad because he really did do all the things. They have 2 kids, and I said, that's your stuff. How can you accept what he did do and really think, wow, that's so great. He put in such a great effort.
Yeah. And I think that's a big key too, right? Which is he's over there like, I am the shit. Look at what I did. I got it all done. Like boom, boom, boom. Right. Yep. And then she comes down and complains and it completely bursts his bubble because he's like, I put so much energy into that. So I think from her point of view is, yeah, it's absolutely not done to her standards.
Yeah.
But the question is, did he give it his best effort? Did he really try? Did he really try hard? Because this is not stuff that he does every day normally, probably a lot of it.
Right.
But did he do his best and try his best to help the kids and her? And I think that's really a key place that she needs to be coming from, is like, she needs to look at it and go, okay, it's not perfect. It's not the way I would have done it, but did he really like try hard to help me out here? And if the answer is yes, then you just got to love him for it, you know?
Well, and it might not look good. His try hard, his doing his best might have even been a D in that kitchen, right? But to assume that he was still doing his best. We all have different capacities. I can get a lot of crap done. I got to tell you, I'm like, most people can't get done what I get done. So, but to compare others to what I can do in that amount of time is not fair. It's just not their capacity. It's just not what's important to them. It's not what they see. Right. I've had Gary clean the bathroom and leave a full garbage. It's like, how'd you not see that? How'd you not see that? I don't know. But he really did it. Like, he just missed it. I don't know. You know, it wasn't on purpose. Like, I don't want to leave that there. Screw her. That's not what's happening.
The task was to clean that sink in that toilet.
All right.
And that probably got done really well.
Really well. And of course, I got a cleaning lady, let's be real. But, every now and then you need some extra help, right? But there's a way of just really understanding that. I had another couple, she comes down in the morning and he does the dishes at night, and he didn't do them. Like, they were still there, and she hates coming in, which I understand. She's got 2 little kids. She comes down in the morning. It's her shift, and the kitchen's a mess, and she's starting from there, and she's furious, and she's upstairs yelling at, like, what, and and it's not about that you don't want him to do it. I mean, really, it's about understanding that he wasn't trying to piss her off. I mean, that's the last thing on men's minds generally, is pissing off their women. I will tell you that right now. They are trying everything they can not to, but he was so done and so burnt, he really couldn't do it. And it still needs to get done, though. And see, that's where it can seem very like roles and women just have to suck it up or something. And it's not at all. I want that solved for future. So I said to her, instead, can you go up to him? He's laying in bed, right? And say, I need us to figure this out. I need us to figure out how we're going to get the kitchen clean, because I can't come down in the morning like that. And I get you. I don't know how you just couldn't do it last. I get it. Like, cause I know you're trying your best, like you're trying your best. So what can we do? How can we problem solve this? We as a team. So it's not something that continues to happen. That's the difference. And you might end up with help in the mornings when you thought that was a weird, crazy thing. You might end up, I don't even know what you might do, but something else, so that you're not just, again, keeping score, blaming the other person, or being a martyr and just like, oh, I just have to do this because no one else will do it. I don't want that either. I just want all of us to get together. There
are always solutions for this stuff. I do this in our relationship all the time. When I sense that she's starting to get a little too overwhelmed with the number of tasks that have to get done, I say, okay, we got to do 2 things. Number 1, we got to prioritize what's really important and what can we let go. Number 2, we got to figure out a system for taking care of the thing that actually has to get done. And there's tons and tons of different ways if you think outside the box. Dishes. Okay. Can you hire somebody to come in and do the dishes? Can you get a new dishwasher where you can actually put half that stuff in, because your old one, you can't put half that stuff in, or whatever. There's tons of ways around that to solve those problems. And honestly, as guys, and I'm not saying women aren't good problem solvers, because they are, but as guys, that's like usually one thing we're really good at: solving problems. We're very task oriented. You give us a problem, we will figure out a way to solve it.
You like to solve a problem. Thank you. It's really just that we approach, and not a you versus me approach. And again, not always thinking everything has to happen within the couple. It just can't. Again, we used to have whole families and communities and extended families doing half the stuff that gets done right now. It is not possible. My biggest running joke is Oprah doesn't even have it all. If friggin' Oprah, like, who's like superhuman, can't have it all, she doesn't have kids, she's not married, she struggles with her weight, she can't have it all. She's a billionaire. I love her. but she doesn't have it. Like this doesn't exist. This dream, whatever, doesn't exist. And you make decisions that work for your life. She certainly seems very happy. God bless her. I'm happy for her. It's great. It's just at some point she made decisions about what was the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And is very happy with them, clearly. And we have to do that in our relationships. The most important thing is the relationship. You think it's hard right now doing the dishes when he's sleeping? Try when you're divorced. Try doing that when you have two households and these kids, and beyond that, it's just you being unhappy all the time isn't what I want for you. I love you. What are you doing here? How do we shift this again into accepting help, into really asking in a new way? If you didn't get the help before, don't give up. At our jobs, if I'm doing something I work at corporations still, if I'm, tasked with something at a company and I'm not getting it done right away, I don't go, oh, well, you need to pay me anyway, but I didn't do this. Right. We go, oh, how else can we do this? What are the resources we have to bring in? Let's call Bob from accounting. We really think of all the things because it has to get done. Well, your relationship absolutely needs to be happy and joyous and sexy and luscious and yummy and great. So how do we keep moving towards that place over and over, keep recommitting to that over and over?
So this is a good segue into giving a few tips to our listeners, because I think we talked a lot about in how competition and keeping score shows up. I think everyone listening was able to recognize themselves at some point or another. I sure have. And
not me.
And so where do we go from there? What are some of the strategies that people can do? Well, you've already said about being a team, getting the outside help, like you don't have to do it everything as a couple. But do you have anything else maybe as a first step that they could take?
Mm-hmm. There's a few. So that one is, make it a first goal to get outside resources or take things off the plate. Think of what doesn't have to happen, right? Those are the kind of bigger strategic things. But the internal emotional things are to start to have this kind of paradigm shift of being a shared resource, that whenever I'm looking to my partner for something, I'm actually taking it away from myself too. So how do I, really start to think of us as on the same team, right? Over and over. And one of the little things I talk about a lot to help that conversation is not to SAC, not SAC. Don't offer suggestions, give advice, or criticize. So ever. So, and of course, people are like, well, what's left? And it's asking questions and asking good ones. And good ones meaning not why questions, but like with the sex life thing we talked about earlier, I could go to my husband and say, oh, why aren't you initiating sex? And I really need that. And I've asked 5 times for this and you never do it. Right. That is just not going to get you anywhere you want to go. But to think like, hey, what would you like to see more of in your sex life, in our sex life? Now I'm going to get to that. I'm just coming around it a little differently. I'm getting us on the same team first and then going somewhere and really getting rid of any idea of negotiation. I really hate negotiation. This idea, I'm over here, you're over here, we're on some straight line and we're negotiating. And we know from the research that when people negotiate, both sides think they gave up more. Just so you know. So talk about your competition and you're keeping score. So now I think, so I gave this in. We both think we lost, which is terrible because again, we can't have winners and losers. So I talk a lot about this paradigm of a triangle instead. And we're both here and there's a solution out there that neither of us has. And together we need to brainstorm to figure out what that is, right? And I always want you thinking that way. I don't have to figure this out. We are going to figure this out. We are going to do that. Just continue to have that we. And I know for me, because I'm a superwoman and I suck at asking for help. And I immediately go to just problem solving and fixing things. That has been the biggest shift I've had to make, is not just jumping in with what the solution already is, but actually asking. And I'm surprised sometimes at what the solution is, because it isn't something I thought he'd ever go for, or it isn't something I thought he'd ever come up with, or that or something I never even thought of. over and over again. And when we come to our partners like that, the vulnerability is there. We develop trust. The communication starts, which again, now goes into the bedroom, now goes into our parenting, it goes everywhere. It's amazing. But if you just started with not trying this for even a day or a week, to not sack, not offer suggestions, giving advice, or criticizing, and instead only asking questions when something doesn't feel right or we're trying to get something to move, just ask questions. And I'm telling you, your relationship will transform.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic advice. You know, in our relationship, we kind of very early on coined the term team us, right? Because we have always, from the beginning, viewed our relationship as a team. Like we're working together for a common goal all the time. And I think that's where a lot of relationships fail, is they see themselves as opposites, opposing each other a lot of the time. How can I get my needs met at the expense of the other one? So fantastic advice.
Yep.
So where can people find more of you? I know you've got books and your website. So please tell our listeners where they can connect with you.
The website has everything. It's abbymedcalf.com, ABBYMEDCALF.com. And there is a free communication toolkit for couples on there because, you know, I have to speak the language of the people. And so, and it's really popular and really will be helpful. And the podcast is there, all the things, the books, there's a lot of free things too. There's a learned optimism workshop. There's mindfulness starter kit, meditation starter kits. All of them are free. I like to have things accessible to everyone. So you can get, you can buy things there, but you can also get lots of good free resources.
Awesome. And we come to our very last question, Abby. Tell our listener, what is your best sexual talent?
I think I thought of this because I'm like, oh, they asked this question. I have to think. I asked Gary.
She's been listening.
I have listened. Of course I did. I said to Gary, so I asked Gary and he said blowjobs. So I'm going to have to go with that. I asked him, I was like, what is it? And he said, oh, blowjobs all day long. I said, great.
It's a great skill to have.
It's a great skill to have. It's fun for everybody.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that one. Well, you have a lucky husband and you're a lucky woman too. Because blowjobs are fun both ways.
They are fun. I was like, it's like, that's a win-win.
Yeah. You know, if you're lucky enough to be in a relationship with a woman who really loves to give blowjobs, definitely don't take it for granted, because it's amazing. A lot of guys are like, I wish I could get my woman to give me more blowjobs. It's like the other night, Céline was like, give me your cock. I'm like, are you sure? I'm kind of tired. Like, don't you just want to go to bed? She's like, no, I want it right now. I'm like, okay. Deal.
All right,
done.
For you. I'll do it for you because I love you.
Exactly.
That's a little bit of a joke we have. It's like, okay. But yeah, I was happy to know I was like, I have to ask him. He'll know.
You are the very first guest who has listened probably to an entire show to the end because they never know. They always act very surprised. So you came prepared.
Uh-huh.
Good job.
I was ready.
Always ready.
All right. Well, that interview just flew by. We are actually over time, but it was great. We didn't ask half the questions we wrote down, but it was fantastic. And I really think that the audience got a lot of value. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome. I love talking. I could talk to you guys all day.
Same here. But we're going to stop.
All right, everybody. That's all the time we have for this episode. And we will see you next week. We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoy this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends.
And for more free, exclusive content, join us in the Passion Vault at CelineRemy.com/vault. That's CelineRemy.com/vault.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.